Welcome to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, a podcast for Danville, Kentucky and beyond. Conversations with friends, and you get to listen. Brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. 80% Danville-centric, 20% eccentric.
How many times has that happened?
More than once.
Have you? So here's my question: have you had to redo an entire interview?
Not an entire interview yet. Portions, yes. Either forgetting to hit the record button on Zoom or on my I've got a dedicated piece of recording equipment that I use, and I've messed that up too. But hey, hold on a second. Let me drop this intro. Good morning, Danville, Kentucky. Welcome to Man About Danville. You're listening to the fastest growing, most influential podcast for Danville, Boyle County, and the surrounding region. I am Logan H. Gurman, the man about Danville himself. Thank you for joining me. Whether you're getting ready for work, in the car, on the commute, at the gym, on a road trip, on vacation, by the pool, at work, on your tractor, on a run, out mowing your yard, on your way to a football game, whatever you're doing, I certainly consider it an honor and privilege that you choose to spend part of your day listening to this podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, I hope you consider sharing it wherever you listen. There should be a little share button. If you would hit that post and share it to the social media platform of your choosing, I'd appreciate it. Be sure to tag me so I can thank you personally. Welcome to episode 24. Who knew that we would get this far down the road with this podcast, but here we are. This episode doesn't have a whole lot to do with Danville, Kentucky, but it does have to do with me and my friends, and that's what this podcast started out to be. I'm joined by my friend from Rhodes College, Mr. Eric Smith. By the way, what are those, reading glasses? What's up with those?
What are you talking about? It's just for looks, man. I don't need them at all.
No, it just adds to the distinguished look.
Exactly.
All right.
Got the tweed coat with the patches on it and everything.
Now let me tell you something. My tweed coat collection is virtually unmatched.
Logan, I would not expect you to have any comparison in tweed or ascots.
I think my ascot collection is unrivaled in the 5-county area.
We've gone to see Yacht Rock Review a couple of times, and Sandy always says, you need to get an ascot to go with your captain's hat. And I said, I need to probably consult with Mr. Gurman and find out exactly what kind of ascot I need. Because I don't want to get just some cheap ascot off Amazon. I need some style advice.
I'm not going to divulge my ascot procurement locations on the air. I'll communicate that with you privately after this call.
Well, no, hold on a second, because I think you've got a sponsorship opportunity here.
Maybe Ascots Are Us could come on board.
Well, it's better than the business idea we had in college, which I definitely won't mention on this show.
If we switched that to writing papers for people and delivered it via the internet, we'd be bazillionaires by now.
I'm talking about the other one that delivered
that one. Have you ever Googled that? Because that probably exists.
You know what? I probably don't want to Google that around here.
No, you don't want that in your browser history.
Exactly.
All right. So this podcast is occasionally listened to by my children because I drive them places and force them to listen to it. So we can't do anything that's not too kid friendly.
I will look. I mean, I am on these calls all the time with work. I'm pretty comfortable not using profanity or any off-color remarks. So,
in worst case scenario, I can bleep it out. I've gotten pretty decent with my audio editing. All right.
So but I do want to ask, because my question is, this is a podcast about Danville, and I've been to Danville, but I don't feel like I can speak about Danville. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to discuss.
Well, first and foremost, this is a podcast about me. So, and the corollary, the podcast is about my friends. So I'm in Danville,
Gotcha.
And you're my friend, so you get to be on, and it's my podcast, and I can do whatever I want, and I want to talk to you.
Awesome.
I thought you could really liven things up around here. I've done some, businessy, community service related type stuff lately, and I just want to have a chat with somebody I like. So.
But just to let you know, I've listened to probably 4 or 5 of them. So, I listened to the one with your brother, the first one. I listened to a couple of the guy. You had a guy in real estate on.
Trey.
Yep, Trey. And then I listened to one a few weeks ago. I can't remember who it was now, but yeah, dude, you're killing it, man. I love it.
It's easily the biggest podcast deal in Danville, Boyle County and the surrounding 5-county area. Not that we're covered up with.
You got if you can be number one in Boyle County, I mean, what's next?
Maybe Harrodsburg, Perryville.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Sky's the limit. Where are you as we talk at the moment?
I'm in Louisville, Colorado.
Is that a suburb of Denver?
It is. It's really yes, although it's more a suburb of Boulder.
Is Boulder a suburb of Denver?
Boulder's its own town. It's part of the metro area, but it's in Boulder County. So, I think Boulder's probably a better reference. And Boulder's, 30 minutes outside of Denver. It's got its own, feel and vibe to it. You could just say Colorado, parts unknown, Colorado.
It's not like some kind of like prepper ranch or anything, is it? You don't have two years worth of food in the basement or anything, right?
Well, I'm not allowed to say exactly how much we have for legal purposes.
Okay, well, and I won't give away your exact location either.
No, you can say Boulder, you can say Denver, you can say whatever. I tend to, like on Facebook, we just say Boulder because it tends to be easier.
And you're working from home today?
I've been working from home for about a little over a year.
Oh, okay.
So this transition, if this is something we want to talk about, this transition was a piece of cake for me. And like you and I have discussed, I've been social distancing for a long time, most of my life.
Leela says I'm handling the quarantine really, really well. It's like I've been practicing forever.
Sandy says the same thing about me.
Does Sandy leave the house in the morning?
No, she's been working from home since March.
Oh.
So we're both working from home. We make it work. We're both fine with it. We're both thankful that we're still employed.
No kidding.
Yeah.
All right. I'm at the ManAboutDanville Worldwide Tower downtown. I like to come up here because, the kids are homeschooling. And as soon as I fall asleep on the couch after lunch, they want to, talk to me and ask for homework help. And
so you're at your office?
Yes, this is my office.
Okay. It's not the Logan Company World Headquarters?
That's on the other floor.
That's the other wing. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
This is like the annex. For the sake of anything else better to talk about, what exactly do you do, Eric Smith?
So I am it's funny enough, and you'll get a huge kick out of this since I was a poetry major in college.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You'll get a huge kick out of this since I was a poetry major.
Well, I thought you said poetry.
Funny enough, you can do a lot with poetry if you don't actually go into the field of poetry. I'm a senior analyst for a company called Modern Distribution Management. And basically, I'm a writer and editor, but I cover the financial side and the mergers and acquisition side of the wholesale distribution industry. And I focus on the industrial and construction vertical markets in wholesale distribution. And so it's a lot of companies that none of your listeners have probably ever heard of. Grainger is one of them. I don't know if you know Grainger.
The Grainger catalog?
Yeah.
Oh, I know the Grainger catalog.
Yeah. So we're a B2B publication. So we market our services and our business intelligence to executives who work in wholesale distribution. And, we help them sell more. We help them understand their markets and their opportunities. And so I write a number of different articles and do different webcasts and podcasts and different things all around that industry. And so again, it's very niche. It's a huge industry, but it's not something a lot of people are familiar with. It's very specific to people selling industrial and construction products to other businesses.
That sounds pretty specific. Let's back up. How did you and I meet?
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about this because we just it's September, so I would say probably a month ago, mid-August, 31 years ago.
1989,
31 years ago, give or take a few weeks. We met at Glassell Hall on the campus of Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And we just happened to be right across the hall from each other. Of course, yourself and Reed Smiley, another Boyle County High School graduate.
Another man about Danville himself.
Another great man about Danville. You and Reed were roommates. Next to you guys was Britt Summers and Andrew Shipman. Across the hall was myself and John Suffel. And next to us were Harper Cook and Greg Moffitt. And, I would say of those 8 people, 6 of us have stayed in contact over all these years and stayed what I would argue are pretty good friends.
Pretty good friends 31 years later.
Yeah, and exactly.
The story I heard was they had a student intern in the summer that was assigning dorm rooms, and she put all of us on the 3rd floor left wing of Glassell because she didn't know where else any of us fit in.
If I remember correctly, I believe that was Cynthia Doolittle. Yeah, but you're absolutely right that Cynthia had the foresight to put us all together based on our housing applications, which I'm guessing indicated that we were all total nerds.
Well, it was a pretty nerdy place anyway, but we were some outliers among the nerds. You lived across the hall from me. Reed got down there early for football.
Yeah,
and so
and Suffel was down there early for soccer, as was Andrew.
Andrew was there early for soccer. Was Britt there? Did he play football for 3 or 4 days? So
Britt did play football freshman year. At least he started. I believe he started on the football team, and I think his knee gave him issues, and he ended up quitting. Before the season really started.
Well, you lived across the hall. I showed up from Danville in the big city of Memphis, and Reed was off doing stuff. So I just kind of latched on to you, and everywhere you went, I just followed along like I was your friend, and you were from Memphis, so you knew a couple other people on campus, and I just kind of held on to your shirt tail and tried to act like I fit in.
Well, and I pretended like, I knew what I was doing. But of course I didn't. So I would say it was very much reciprocal.
You were probably
I was doing the exact same thing with you.
You probably looked a little bit cooler because you had a sidekick. You had me following around. And I didn't realize orientation activities were optional. There's an activity at 1:00. I've got to go to that. And like Suffel, who I'm friends with now on Facebook, I've found him on Facebook.
I need to do the same. I didn't realize he was. So,
yeah, it's pretty recent. But he's like, you don't have to go to that. Like, what do you mean I don't have to go to that? Of course I have to go. It's on the schedule. I have to go.
I did skip, and I think so. If I remember correctly, I skipped cruise in.
Really?
Because I had the benefit of, again, being from Memphis. I had a number of I call them friends. They were actually friends of my older sister who were seniors at Rhodes at the time. And it was Walker Welford and Bill Van Cleve and Graham Butler and Todd Mullen. They had all gone to Ridgeway. And so I knew them through my sister. I ended up going to a party at the Hawthorne House and skipped cruising. And then, but I heard it was, really a blast and probably changed my whole life that I missed it.
Cruise In, for those that don't know, was the riverboat excursion it was a freshman mixer, and they put all the freshmen on a riverboat, sent them up and down the river. I think there was an episode of The Office that they based on Cruise In 1989. A little known fact there. Did you get the T-shirt?
That's a good question. I don't think I did. Huh. And again, in some ways, I feel deprived. Like maybe my college experience wasn't as fulfilling.
That's a great shared experience among almost everybody that went to Rhodes. Just cruise in, and you skipped the thing.
And I did get a cruise out, so
okay.
I did put a nice bow at the end of my college career. So
you went to Ridgeway with friend of the show, Lynn Crabb. Let's give a shout out to Lynn.
Absolutely.
Anybody else went to Ridgeway?
Jason LaFernie
and Chad Saunders.
The infamous Chad Saunders,
okay,
who in some ways was probably a more popular Rhodes student than you and I were.
I think he had more dates. Which, it's a low bar.
Did he go on one? Did he have more dates? Now, to be fair, we did have a couple of dates, but no, I do think at some point, some folks thought Chad was a student, because as much as he hung around, I think he might have had a key to get into Glassell. I honestly think who was our RA?
Mal.
Keep talking. I've got to let my dog out. I can still hear you though.
All right. Was his name Mal Jenkins?
Yeah, Mal. That's right.
No, I think
Mal might have given Chad a key. Just said, "Oh yeah, you live down in 325. Yeah, here you go."
Chad also could have proposed that he had lost his key and just conned Mal into giving him one. So people thought Chad went to school with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. True or false? You moved to Denver because the football team there predominantly wears blue and orange.
There does seem to be a pattern with my preferred professional sports teams and their colors.
The Roadrunners were blue and orange?
The Roadrunners were blue and orange. My high school, Ridgeway, a.k.a. the Ridgeway Preparatory School for Boys, which is what Jason LaFernie and I dubbed it because we thought it sounded a lot cooler.
Oh, it does.
I went to Ridgeway High School. Yeah, Ridgeway Prep, RPS. My sister went to Auburn, and so I became a de facto Auburn fan because you have to. It's not like you can root for Rhodes outside of Ferguson Field. Auburn was orange and blue, and then look, I was a Broncos fan from a very young age. Just I picked them out of the Sears catalog and said I like those colors, and obviously there was a pattern to that. That's not why I moved out here. And this is actually my fourth time living in Colorado. And hopefully this is the last time I've moved out here. Did not move out for the Broncos, moved out just to get back to the mountains and skiing and hiking and all those good things.
You could have been a national park ranger in another life.
Yeah, funny enough, my senior year at Rhodes, I actually applied to be a park ranger that summer, and it's an extremely competitive job, and not surprisingly, and they look at a lot of veteran status, and say not having that, they look at having law enforcement background, which I did not have and was not going to pursue. So Park Service was not, in the cards for me, but I did work in a couple of different national parks. You
worked in Denali, which is near Wasilla, Alaska, which is where you met the Thrilla from Wasilla, Sandy.
Yep, Sandy Alvarado Smith, aka the Thrilla from Wasilla. Denali is about 2 or 3 hours north of Wasilla, which is about an hour north of Anchorage. And we met there in 97. We started dating. We moved to Colorado together. We ski bummed in Breckenridge, Colorado, and moved back to Alaska. And then we ended up getting married in 2003.
And then you all lived in Memphis for a time. She liked Memphis, but it was time to move back out to Colorado.
Yeah, we did. My dad got sick in 2005, and so we were looking for a way. Look, we wanted to just do something different, get out of Alaska. I said, look, actually Sandy's the one who suggested it. She said, hey, let's move to Memphis, be close to your family, gets us in the lower 48, which is something we wanted to do. Being in Alaska is a great place, but it's, as you can imagine, extremely isolated. And we were looking for a change of pace, moved to Memphis, said we were going to be there 2 years. But as you know, moving to Memphis, Memphis is a hard place to leave just because of the economics of the place. The cost of living is super low. And look, we got there, had good jobs, made a ton of friends, reconnected with old friends, and we ended up in Memphis for 9 years. And we finally said, now we miss the mountains. Let's move to Colorado. We've lived there before. We're a flight closer to her family, who are still in Alaska. And so it worked out. We've been out here we're coming up on 6 years, actually, this fall.
True or false, there are Steely Dan cover bands operating in the Denver Boulder area?
That is true. And I'm glad you used a plural because there are at least 2 Steely Dan cover bands or tribute bands, as perhaps they prefer to be called, that have played around here. We've seen both of them. There's one that plays a little bit more frequently. It's called Citizen Dan. We've probably seen them, I don't know, maybe 3 times. There's another band called My Old School. We've seen them once. They're both fantastic.
Oh, if they're playing,
highly recommend.
If they're playing Steely Dan canon, how could they be anything other than fantastic?
Exactly. They obviously love and respect and honor, probably the greatest band of all time. So huge shout out to them.
Steely Dan occupies a singular place in American music history. I can't put my finger on why, but they're always appropriate for everything. There's always the correct Steely Dan song for almost any situation in life, whether you're driving to work or at the gym or in mourning because yet another relationship has failed. There's a Steely Dan song for that.
Right. Well, okay. Yeah. I agree. I agree completely. We've got, Sandy and I go camping quite a bit. We have decided that on Sundays when we're camping, and we've got a little camper called a Scamp. We take that out, and typically on Sunday mornings we'll have a brunch either outside at the campsite if it's nice, or inside the camper if it's not. Invariably, we listen to a Steely Dan play mix because it's kind of become synonymous with Sunday brunch, mimosas, and perhaps nursing a little bit of a hangover. And I hope that's okay to say on your show.
Yeah.
But they have become Steely Dan Sundays. And that's true, Logan, whether we're traveling or at home, again, having mimosas and Sunday brunch. There's just something about it. Of course, we've also been listening to a lot of yacht rock.
Well, there's a lot of overlap.
Absolutely. And I don't necessarily think it's fair to lump Steely Dan in with yacht rock because I think they far exceed that category.
Yes, they transcend yacht rock.
Absolutely. Just when you think about the talented session players that they've got on their albums, they're more than just smooth, easy listening jazz. But they certainly have some music that falls into the category.
Well, there are a lot of yacht rockers that are one-hit wonders, and others that aren't. But it's easy listening, light rock with incredibly morose, ironic lyrics, and that's what really sets them apart. And if I'm in a malaise, a deep melancholy state, I just put on those Steely Dan and really drive it 2 or 3 notches lower in my basement, or sitting in the car in a dark parking lot by myself. So that's there's one comment that you texted me a year ago or so. I'd gotten a really nice bottle of bourbon from my boss at work, and it's a Kentucky bourbon, Woodford Reserve, I believe it was, and I had, or maybe it was something else. It may have been Knob Creek.
Dig it out. That's what it was. It was a Knob Creek, and I don't know bourbon as well as you, obviously, and I texted it to you, and you said that's a great bottle of bourbon. You said pour it over some ice, turn on Steely Dan, and tell everybody not around you not to talk for a while. And I showed Sandy that text, and she said, that sounds like great advice. And so that's precisely what we did.
All right. The other odd little thing we're a fan of together, Fredrick Exely's novel, A Fan's Notes. Your thoughts?
Wow. I've read the book. I believe I've read it twice, and it's possible that I've read it 3 times. And if I didn't read it completely 3 times, I've probably skimmed it and looked for some of my favorite passages. And there's just something about it. I think we related to it when we were in our early 20s. And Exley's writing this, much older. I think we were projecting ourselves as future Fred Exleys,
as future abject failures.
Abject failures, but there, I think there was something romantic about use the term abject failure, but I think there was something so melancholy about his life that you and I related to it, and it was struggling to connect with people. It was struggling with not being the success that I think he wanted to be and that we wanted to be. The irony, of course, is that we've both become successful. And,
hugely.
And we both have, great families and relationships. And we joke about these things. We romanticize that life, but when it comes down to it, I don't think either one of us would really want to live that life. But there's absolutely something poetic about his life, his fandom of football. And, I just struck a chord with both of us from an early age.
Oh, it was deeply melancholy, and his greatest success was writing about what a giant failure he was. So
yeah, and to be fair, you're absolutely right. He talks about what a failure he was as a husband and a father and everything else, but he became this cult figure author who wrote Fans Notes is hugely popular book with a lot of I guess literary nerds. His other two books weren't quite as popular, but still great. I always just marvel at his command of the language and the way he writes and some of the passages from his books. Those were some of the passages I would go back and reread and think to myself, I wish I could write a sentence like that or a paragraph like that or a chapter like that.
But at least
in my life.
But at least I'm not leading a life that miserable.
Exactly. I'm not locked up in a loony bin, and he was institutionalized. His problems were that severe. So yeah, good stuff. With that in mind, I may have to reread it this fall. Now's the perfect time as it starts to get cooler and the leaves turn.
One of my good friends here in Danville is John Kincaid, and he's a professor of English and literature at Center College. And A Fan's Notes is also one of his favorite books too. And I don't know whether I'm his friend because he liked the book. That must be it. Anyway, it's just funny that another middle-aged guy from our Gen X generation wandering lost through a privileged life and college experience was drawn to this.
Yeah, it's interesting because Frank Gifford died a couple of years ago, and I don't think, had I not read A Fan's Notes, I would not have been interested in his obituary. But Fred Exely was so obsessed with Frank Gifford. When he was in college, they were in college together at USC. I guess by proxy, I kind of became interested in Frank Gifford too. And I remember that one of the obituaries I read talked about his Exley's fanaticism and admiration of Gifford, and so it just kind of another little tie there.
Steely Dan and Exley were the two things I had on my list to talk about. What else are we going to talk about?
Well, I guess how are you guys doing?
Oh, everything's fine with us.
That's good. Now, are you still doing real estate?
Oh yeah. That's
okay.
That's the main. The podcast yet isn't monetizing itself to such that I can retire from real estate. So,
but soon. I mean, after this episode, it probably will.
This one should blow me up on the Mountain Time Zone. So
who are your favorite podcasters?
Okay, well, you remember Paul Ollinger?
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah. So Paul I've got to get Paul on here as a guest at some point. Paul has a real podcast called Crazy Money, and it's very good. It's not like a Dave Ramsey, here's what you do to alleviate credit card debt. It's on the psychology, and he interviews people who've written books. Have you written a book?
No.
Time's wasted, bro. It's time for you to get on the Great American Novel. Anyway, but Paul has a real one, and it's been going on for a couple of years, and it's really good. And when I posted to Facebook, said, "Oh, I'm doing this," he immediately reached out and said, "If you're serious, talk to me." And I did. And he's been kind of something of a sensei to me in this business, and he helped me with the hosting and the all the behind the scenes stuff.
The technology stuff.
I got this giant microphone.
You've got a microphone. You're just an AV geek who finally found his calling.
It's a lot like mountain bikes or whatever you're into. You can just go down rabbit holes of YouTube videos, and the Amazon stuff shows up on a daily basis, and Leo's like, "What's that?" And then there's a retaliatory spending, and it all spirals out of control.
Well, that's funny because I'm actually, you mentioned writing a book. I'm not writing a book, but I am launching a new website.
Are you really?
So for a couple years, and I don't know if this is the time or place to discuss, but for a couple of years from March of 2018 until this past May, I was writing for a sporting goods and outdoor business public trade publication. I ended up going back to my old job, which is what I'm doing right now, but I still kind of have a desire to write about the snow sports trade, the business side of it. And so I've got a website that I'm working on. It's in beta right now, and it's called the Snow Sports Business Report. And it's going to be a B2B publication that talks about the brands and the retailers and the ski resorts, but looking at it strictly from the business side of things. So not, such and such got, X amount of snow this week, and you guys should go ski here, and this is where you should go do your après after you've skied. But it's going to be for the people who are in the industry to read about, the newest brands on the market, whether it's hard goods or soft goods, to understand how Vail Resorts is performing. Their publicly traded company, the biggest ski resort operator in the country, and looking at some of the startup businesses in the snow sports industry, looking at how the retail side of the business is doing. Obviously, I was writing about some of this stuff at my last job, but now I'm looking to kind of go my own way. And this would be a complete side hustle. And I hope to be launching that here in the next, probably month or so.
All right. So like any good Memphian, you've got a side hustle.
That's exactly right.
Does anybody in Memphis not have a side hustle?
That's a really good question. So I do come by it honestly because I agree with you. The people in Memphis are always doing something on the side. They're
selling
DJing.
T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
They got some barbecue they've cooked in the backyard that they're selling on the side. They're
that's right.
performing on the street. Everybody's got a side hustle in Memphis.
They've come up with a rib rub in the kitchen, and they're hawking that. So or they're writing, or obviously a lot of people doing stuff in music. I've got a lot of good friends who play in bands on the weekends. A lot of that. I took it, and again, I'm probably the only person from Memphis who's ever written about and won awards for writing about snow sports. So I'm hoping to kind of leverage that background and kind of go my own way. And this is not a moneymaker. This is not a career. I hope to continue to do my current job, and hopefully it doesn't get in the way of that job. But just looking to fill a niche there. Because there's not a publication that just focuses on the business side of snow sports. There's a lot of product gear review sites and things like that. But somebody to talk about, okay, yeah, you can go read about what the best ski boot or snowboard is, but what's the story behind these companies that are putting these products out there? And so I've discovered and talked to a lot of people in the industry and found that there's a niche there and a need. So I've been working on that a lot in my spare time. And again, COVID has been a terrible thing, and I wish this pandemic were over. But that's kind of been my focus, during my free time over these last 6 months.
So the name of the website is Ski Mount Moriah.
Ski, I do have, and you probably saw the T-shirt I've got. Somebody put out a Ski Mount Moriah T-shirt, and for those of your listeners who don't know, which is probably most of them, there's a street.
Leela knows.
Leela definitely knows. There's a street in Memphis called Mount Moriah, and back in the 80s, I think it was one of the radio stations, maybe FM 100, just came up with this kind of this funny catchphrase. Oh, let's go ski Mount Moriah. And obviously, as you know, you've lived there. There's no skiing anywhere close to Memphis,
and not many hills either. It's neither cold enough nor hilly.
Neither one of those, but because of the name Mount Moriah, it sounds like a ski resort. And so somebody put out a T-shirt, Ski Mount Moriah. I bought one and posted a picture of myself on it with it on Facebook, or Sandy did. It's in fact my photo for the North American Snow Sports Journalists Association is of me wearing the Ski Mount Moriah shirt. And I always think to myself, I wonder how many people who live in Colorado or Utah or Washington are looking at that going, I'm not familiar with that mountain. Where the hell is Ski Mount Moriah?
Have you seen any of my Man About Danville T-shirts and tank tops?
Well, no, Logan, because I haven't gotten any in the mail.
Did I not send you a koozie?
No, it's fine. You said you were worried, and this is a valid point. You were worried because the koozies, I think, fit the White Claws.
I got two sizes. I got one for your Pilsner Pale Ale craft brew stuff in Colorado. Don't have one for your growler, but
the hazy IPAs and the bombers.
I will trade you. I'll trade you a Man About Danville T-shirt for a Ski Mount. I think you should totally put Ski Mount Moriah into production.
Well, Ski Mount Moriah is now somebody's already made the shirt. So,
but are they trademarked?
That's a good question.
I bet 30, 40 years has gone by. They're no longer under trademark. You should just start whipping out the Ski Mount Moriah T-shirts.
Okay. Yeah. No.
And sell them on your new website.
The company that was making them, I don't believe they're in business anymore. So that's a fair point. I might have to talk to you about your T-shirt supplier.
It's a legacy brand. T-shirts for the Man About Danville are supplied by Extreme Signs and Graphics out on Stanford Road. Go talk to my friend Sarah. She'll hook you up. All right. So are you doing, what's the name of the website again?
So the URL is snowsportsbiz.com.
Okay. So you've bought the domain.
I've bought the domain. There is a website up and running. You can go check it out. And it's the Snow Sports Business Report, snowsportsbiz.com. It is, like I said, it's in beta. It's got a few things up, but it's going to be a while before I get it to where it's going to be ready for prime time.
Are you doing it just so you can write off your ski trips? You could choose not to answer. If we could take this part out of the podcast, I'm just kidding. No, not at all. Look, like I said, it's really just a way for me to stay involved with the industry and continue to write about it. And I've got so many great connections there. I just want to keep telling their stories because it's a lot of great stories that aren't getting told. The guys in my production room are telling me that I've got to wrap things up. We are running short on time. So I want to thank my guest, Eric Smith. Eric, thank you so much for joining me.
Logan, thanks so much, man. A big fan of the podcast, and I appreciate the chance to come on and chat a little bit. And, for your listeners, again, I've been to Danville, so look forward to getting back. And when things calm down a little bit and this pandemic has passed, I'd love to come visit you and the family, and I'll bring Sandy out to Danville. It's been too long since I've seen you. I can't remember the last time I saw you, but anyway, it's always good to catch up with you, Eric. So thanks for your time today. I appreciate the opportunity. Hey, Eric, you know what it's time for? What's up, Danville? By the way, if you or someone you know would like to sponsor this podcast or What's Up Danville, I've got room for you. You could be a sponsor of the fastest growing, most influential podcast in the region. There's no long-term commitment, and the rates are incredibly reasonable. So hit me up, ManAboutDanville@gmail.com. In sports, both local football teams have away games tonight, Friday night, the September 18th. Bull County goes to Louisville to play Christian Academy of Louisville. That game will be live streamed, but it's on a different platform. I'll try to include a link to that in the show notes. Danville heads up to Perry County, I think. They head up east. So 2 away games for the local football teams. Good luck to both of them. So there's no football game in town this weekend. You know what you can do instead? Head downtown to Whisker Park for the Boldly Resilient Pop-Up Cafe with special guest Blue Groove Jazz. That's a local jazz band. They'll be performing. You know the drill. Pick up your dinner from a local purveyor of fine victuals. Head to the park. Pick out a table. Enjoy while being socially distanced from your friends. Perhaps you can wave or nod to them. And the good folks from the CVB, the Chamber of Commerce, Heart of Danville, and perhaps the city itself will be there to make sure the tables are cleared and cleaned properly and everyone can have a good time. Should be great weather for that this evening. With regard to the arts, the Art Center of the Bluegrass has their 5K. That kicks off on Sunday, I believe, the 20th. You have 1 week to complete the 5K on your terms. You can either do it on the suggested route, or you can do it on your own route. Record your time, turn it in. Be sure to register for the event at the Art Center website so you can get your t-shirt. It's a good one this year. Then Saturday morning, after going to the Boldly Resilient Cafe, after registering for your 5K, and perhaps before you go run the 5K, head to the Farmers Market in Constitution Square Park at the other end of Main Street. They've got all kind of things. I think Mary Robin from Jane Barleycorn even has a crepe cart. It'll be just like you're on the left bank. Just stop in and see her. I think she has 2 different crepes each weekend. I don't know what the ones are for this weekend, but I think she has like a sweet one and a savory one. That should be a great way to kick off your Saturday morning. I'd like to thank my guest, Eric Smith, for joining me. He's been a good friend for a long time, and it was great to catch up with him today. I'll try to get links up to everything I mentioned in the show notes. Do you want to get in touch with me either about the show or real estate? ManAboutDanville@gmail.com. If you have an item for What's Up Danville, either a sports item, an item that has to do with arts and culture in our community, or a not-for-profit event, please let me know, and I'll try to get that worked in. You can find me on my website, ManAboutDanville.com. Email me, ManAboutDanville@gmail. Instagram, ManAboutDanville. Twitter is ManDanville. You can find this podcast wherever you listen: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Google Podcasts, and just about anywhere else. If you have a moment, hit the subscribe button. Give me a rating or a review if you have time. I appreciate those. Also, share it on your social media. I appreciate that too. That's all I've got.
Be well, have a good weekend, and thanks for listening.
Peace out.
See you.
That's it. We're out. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to Man About Danville wherever you access your favorite podcasts, and be sure to tell your friends about us. You've been listening to Man About Danville with Logan H. Gurman, brought to you by the Logan Company, a commercial and residential real estate brokerage for Danville and Central Kentucky. Know someone who would be a good guest? Want to be a guest yourself? Have an idea for the show? Get in touch with us. Find all our contact information on the web at ManAboutDanville.com. Thanks for joining us.